Hello everyone and welcome back to the Tom Colohue channels. This time once again back on YouTube to preview a little Smackdown talk, wrestling with some wonderful people and just genuinely try and have a damn good time as per the old days when we used to do this non-stop, and will continue to do so. For anyone new to these shows, welcome. I am Tom Colohue. I am sitting here talking about wrestling today. We're going to be breaking down what's going on SmackDown, answering your questions, and talking a little bit about the draft now that it is in the books and behind the scenes. Any actual spoilers, as it were, will be saved for spoiler warning later on today. But for now, I want to talk wrestling with some of the wonderful collection of people we have right here on the Tom Colohue YouTube channel. Some of whom are already saying hi. Sean has left us a question, which is an immediate spoiler, so I'll save that for a little bit later. Welcome, AK Ray says, if you're doing fine, Tom, give me a hell yeah. Well, hell yeah, I'm doing fine, man. Glad to see you, AK. You are definitely someone that we had in mind when we put our heads together and decided that this was the right place to get the shows back and go live again. Today, I want to start by talking a little bit about the all change on WWE Smackdown, which is of course by and large led by changes for Becky Lynch, Sasha Banks and Bianca Belair. Now there are obvious changes for some of them. Becky Lynch has got a pretty obvious change. She's on Raw. Bianca Belair very much the same. Pretty obvious change. She's on Raw. Sasha Banks' big change is the massive change in opponents around her. She's been only feuding with Carmella and Bianca Belair since she first won the SmackDown Women's Championship from Bayley 2 Octobers ago. 2 Octobers ago. So there's a lot of change. It is a bit of an old change. There's a lot going on at the moment which could make things difficult for her. It really is a difficult situation with her, with all of her brand new feuds, brand new people to feud with, brand new people to work against. So we're keeping that in mind. I do apologise if the stream quality has dipped. I'm trying my best to keep as high quality as I can. But it's not the most perfect system in the world. I'm just doing the best I can with what I've got on the performance window. So hopefully YouTube catches up on that. I will be answering your questions, but first I did want to talk a little bit about this match. Tonight's SmackDown will feature a contract signing between Lynch, Banks and Bianca Belair. What I will say is that Sasha Banks is by far the least likely to pick up the win here. She will not be claiming the SmackDown Women's Championship because the SmackDown Women's Championship after Crown Jewel has to be surrendered to Charlotte Flair. And when it's surrendered to Charlotte Flair, the Raw Women's Championship will be surrendered to whoever passes it over to her. Becky Lynch seems most likely with this in mind. Welcome everybody. Noob is here saying good afternoon. Welcome Noob, glad to see you mate. Ethan Hill says hey Tom. Hey Ethan, how you doing man? James Stewart, welcome to the show, says rather than changing brands, swapping titles, would it be easier to introduce a women's universal title? It would not, on the basis that the men's universal title would still have to be swapped with the WWE title, so you wouldn't actually fix a problem per se. They are still somewhat brand specific, but I get what you're saying, having a women's championship and a, for lack of a better term, Divas Championship, because they're not brand specific, they just swap them over without necessarily having to have one brand specific. At the same time though, they do put every bit of effort they can into making those championships stand out separately. It doesn't always work, but it's one of those. It works for the tag team championships when the New Day and the Street Profits traded. I don't see any reason why it wouldn't work this time around either. AK says, which do you like more, a King of the Ring tournament or on a single night or over a period? For a King of the Ring, I do like it over a period. I don't necessarily like a singular final. I'd rather see at least the semis and the final on a show. But at the same time, it's a King of the Ring, and I think the novelty of the King of the Ring is good if they use it correctly. They didn't use it correctly for the last 20 years, I want to say. I think the last good King of the Ring was Edge. Last time it was properly used well for me. Although, to be fair, Brock Lesnar. No, Brock Lesnar definitely. The last well-used King of the Ring for me was Brock Lesnar. Not necessarily in he won championships, but in he won the tournament, got his championship match at SummerSlam, and it meant something. The championship match at SummerSlam is long gone from King of the Ring. Winning the King of the Ring now doesn't really mean all that much. genuinely doesn't mean much at all. That said, single night tournaments can be fantastic. Look at the Deadly Game, Survivor Series 1998. Still one of my favourites. When The Rock was first coronated. Wonderful times. Ed says, can't stick around but have a great show. Thank you, Ed. I hope you are well as well. And we'll be talking about a special Among Us Halloween stream soon, Ed. And I'd love it if that's a game that you could join us on. So, the plans at the moment when it comes to the triple threat between Becky Lynch, Sasha Banks and Bianca Belair are to have a brief triple threat, but with high intensity. They want to show off everything, and basically they've already started preparing and training for it with production staff. They want the match to be as tightly packed as possible without any risk of botches. They don't want to take any risks whatsoever with this match to make it the best showcase that they can. At the moment, to my knowledge, the most likely winner is Becky Lynch, who will retain the championship, having pinned Sasha Banks with a manhandle slam, escaping Bianca Belair. And then on the Smackdown after, Sasha Banks will step aside, meaning that the champions, Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair, will then be able to trade their championships over, leading into greater tension for Survivor Series when the two will face off. AK Ray says Mansoor for King of the Ring as it's in Saudi. Mansoor would be a good pick. I would very much enjoy an Ali versus Mansoor final. I would genuinely enjoy that, and I think that could be very compelling. There's a number of people who've been sort of advertised for King of the Ring, but of those mentioned, Bobby Lashley is one of those, but he's wrestling Bobby Lashley. Yeah, that is Bobby Lashley. Bobby Lashley is one of those, but he's wrestling Goldberg. Kevin Owens' name has been all over this, but I can't see him winning if he's not going to be signing a new contract. So there's a lot going on and a lot of potentials. When it comes to it, I would keep my eye on SmackDown because I think Roman Reigns needs new challenges. A King of the Ring could get someone to that level, even if it is just simply Nakamura winning it and then taking on Roman. I would take that. Anand Welcome says your picks for King of the Ring and Queen's Crown. King of the Ring, as I've said there, I believe Nakamura is a shoe-in for it. While Xavier Woods is basically putting his hat on it, I don't necessarily think he'll be the one to pick it up at this point. When it comes to the Queen of the Ring, there is no doubt in my mind I want Shayna Baszler to win it. The push that she's getting right now, it would be absolutely perfect. That said, they do have her working with Doudrop. That wouldn't be the worst final, but at the same time it wouldn't be the best either. I think Shayna Baszler has earned this, and I think Baszler would be a perfect candidate for that Queen of the Ring. She is, after all, the Queen of Spades. Sean says Liv Morgan isn't losing in the first round, is she? Who knows? It depends on the entire bracket. That's the problem we've got. I can't sit here and say she'll win because they might need a heel Carmella to put over someone else later on. You have to consider those options. Let's say Bianca Belair, and she's not in it. Let's say Doudrop. Let's say the final is going to be Baszler versus Doudrop, and they want to build Doudrop up. Having Carmella there as a heel for her to work with, however briefly, that works. And that helps really put Doudrop over. So it depends. You have to know the end before you can say the build up to it, essentially. And AK says Zayn and Owens don't go to Saudi, so no chance. Yeah, I agree there, and it makes a lot of sense. They definitely will not be winning a King of the Ring. Sean said, loving the shirt, Tom. Thank you. Thank you. I pulled the Alexa Bliss shirt out of my wardrobe recently. She will not feature at all, of course. But it would be nice. I don't even know how she'll come back. Will she be face, heel? Will she be what? Who can tell? AK is pointing out that there are many quote-unquote queens on the women's roster. Shayna being the Queen of Spades, Natalya being the Queen of Hearts. Charlotte, of course, the Queen. Who's the real Queen? Well, we yet to see a Queen of Clubs or a Queen of Diamonds. Honestly, I'm disappointed. You have those opportunities and you don't take them. What the hell? If you are just joining the stream, welcome. I'm Tom Colohue. Please do consider clicking like on the video. It makes a big difference to me and to the viewership that I get, and of course to the subscribers that we pick up as well. So I'd very much appreciate it if you can click like. If you do click like, I'm Tom Colohue. We are talking wrestling right now. I'm going to be breaking some news. We're going to be talking about things that you can't find anywhere else, as well as a breakdown of what you can find somewhere else, which is the big matches coming up for the WWE and a bit of a preview of WWE Smackdown. So please do consider jumping in and sticking around. I will still be doing spoiler warning later on today on Twitch. That is at 10 p.m, so in just under 4 hours time. And that show is where we really break a lot of news that you cannot find anywhere else. This is stuff that you guys could really enjoy and sink your teeth into, but that is only available over on Twitch. So that is twitch.tv/Tom Colohue, and then over the course of the next few days, that news will start to appear here on YouTube as well, in case you can't make it. So there are many ways to enjoy Tom Colohue, and hopefully you enjoy me in at least one of them. Sean says, why hasn't a bracket been revealed yet? They are hiding it for the exact reason that I've just mentioned. They don't want to give away endings by giving away who's in it. Now, a bracket will be shown, likely tonight on SmackDown, but they don't want to discourage people from committing to it before they've even got started. There is a great and strong dislike of the WWE that exists almost at all times. They have to be careful then to maintain the benefit of the doubt to hide their intentions a little. Kervin, welcome mate, says, why did the WWE break up 2 more tag teams, Tamina and Natalya, and Tegan and Shotzi, for no reason? Now, with Natalya and Tamina, a large part of this was based around the veteranship of Natalya. They wanted ring generals in certain positions, and they wanted an even spread of them. By getting Becky Lynch, for example, on Monday Night Raw, she is a ring general, so they didn't feel that they needed someone to work with lower down the card and develop them. That's what Natalya will be doing on SmackDown. She'll be helping a lot of people who maybe aren't that experienced to develop. I've got my eye on, for example, BFAB of Hit Row. Xia Li. She's there to lead. She's there to be the voice of reason in the locker room, and she's, as much as anything, there to be a shoulder to cry on a little bit sometimes. That's why she was split up from Tamina, who is believed to be needed elsewhere as something of a powerhouse. She will likely link up with Nia Jax later on, but the idea of Shayna versus Tamina has also been mentioned a few times to make Shayna look like even more of a badass by putting a bit of a monster in front of her. It's a fairly standard tactic, and it's a fairly effective one. When it comes to Shotzi and Tegan, that's a whole of a story, and I'm yet to have a firm response on it. There will be a bit more on that on spoiler warning, but ultimately it's a very difficult one to get information on. AK says they have the Demon King as well. Lots of kings and queens. You could play a whole damn chess match. Sean says, will Aaliyah or Mia Yim be in the tournament? Maybe. Probably not. Mia Yim more likely than Aaliyah, but there are big question marks at the moment about Aaliyah and what she has to offer. Now, I'm not sat here asking those questions, but there are questions amongst WWE management about what they're going to do with Aaliyah, if anything. Anan says, how would you rate AEW's Casino ladder match? Have not watched it yet, to be completely honest. I work a full-time job. I do Monday and Friday WWE shows. Once I'm full-time, I'll be watching AEW every week, but I cannot justify staying up until 4 a.m. on Wednesdays, Mondays, Fridays, Tuesdays, all of the above. I can't justify it when I start work at 8 a.m. the next day. So AEW unfortunately has fallen by the wayside until I can go full-time. AK says WWE is just one tag team on the main roster, this being a women's tag team, Nikki and Ripley as champs, who are also a team which don't go long. It's time to combine the women's tag titles. That may be in the future. It may be. Or it may be that we have a massive tag team shake-up and we see a whole load of brand new teams. For example, Liv Morgan and Aaliyah. That could be a tag team that they go with. We've got Natalya. She could work with Xia Li. We don't know what character she's going to have at this point. There are a lot of people on both rosters which could work as tag teams. I'm interested to see the next steps for Eva Marie, for example. I think we'll see a tag team there. But I think the tag teams that we had grown very stale, and it was necessary to have a swap around, all except one, that being Shotzi and Tegan Nox, who we barely had gotten to know before they got rid of the tag team. Kevin. Good question. Good question. I'm going to go with the one at the Royal Rumble against Sasha Banks. I feel she was extremely well matched with an opponent there, and it was just an extremely high quality match. I think if we got the opportunity to see Ronda versus Becky, I would be sat here saying Ronda versus Becky. That never happened. We did have Ronda versus Sasha Banks, and ultimately, I can get behind that. That is definitely a match I can get behind. It's a match I genuinely enjoyed, and it's a match we got to enjoy and can watch again. Sasha Banks versus Ronda Rousey, probably for me, the best match of Ronda Rousey's career. Sean says they have no one to challenge Rhea and Nikki for the titles. Yet. It is true that right now there is no one to challenge them. However, in time, new tag teams will be formed. I also believe it's possible we're going to have a number of call-ups that we haven't actually heard yet. Just a number of different call-ups coming up. I did say there's going to be near double figures of call-ups for both brands. I think we got there, especially when you factor in the amount of people in Hit Row. But I think we got there. And Sean says, Liv Morgan and Aaliyah are on different brands. I was just speculating as to possibilities, but thank you for clarifying on that one, Sean. Steve, welcome, mate. Says, hey, Tom, how are you doing? Chance of Xavier Woods being in the King of the Ring tournament, and how do you rate his chances should he be involved? I think he's a shoo-in, and I think he definitely needs to be amongst the people in that King of the Ring, even just to be a runner-up. If you're going to have a heel win the King of the Ring, you've got to have Xavier Woods there to lose it. It's much like Roman in a Royal Rumble. He's always the runner-up because people don't want to see him win and thus are more likely to cheer the person opposite him. It's very clever and very effective. I would say Xavier Woods will be in the tournament. I do not believe that Xavier Woods will win, and honestly, with the passion that he has for it, I wouldn't let him have it yet. I'd do it in maybe 2 years, when people have started to expect it less. It's a bit too obvious now, and while being obvious isn't necessarily the worst thing in the world, being predictable can be a positive. I wouldn't make the change just yet. That said, it would be fun and a great launch pad for Xavier Woods versus Roman Reigns. If anyone has not done so yet, I do implore you to give that like button and that thumbs up a quick click. Pardon me. Every like does go a long way to growing the audience, not just on the channel in general, but in this direct stream. There is a direct correlation between the amount of likes and the amount of viewers I have per stream. So please do consider clicking that like button. It will make a big difference to the growth on the channel. It will mean more people here chatting away, asking questions, and will mean more people making these streams even longer so that you have more access as well. I'm trying to reach a point where I can do this full time. A large part of that is going to be YouTube income. And in order to do that, I need to reach monetization. So first things first, I need to get to 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 watch hours. That's why we've had live shows return, and I really hope you guys are enjoying these. Let me know if you guys are enjoying these live shows, if there's something else you want to see, if there is a specific time you'd rather see different shows. You guys are in charge here. This is your show. So let me know if there's something different that you want to see. Also, welcome, Steve. How you doing, man? Sean says, will Ronda Rousey ever return to WWE, or is she done? Now, here's the thing. I am still, to this day, the only wrestling journalist to report conclusively and definitively that Ronda Rousey would only be wrestling in the WWE for 12 months. Bigger names than me literally attacked me for saying that. Literally attacked me and tried to get as much negative attention on me as possible, stating that Ronda Rousey's contract was 3 years and that no matter what I reported, she would be wrestling for 3 years. So I feel very confident in sitting here and saying, I know what I'm talking about on this one. You can look that up. It's still there on Twitter. It's still available on Sportskeeda. I believe Ronda Rousey will return to the WWE, likely for another year or so, but I believe it'll be 2, maybe 3 years before that happens at this point. I believe we will see Ronda Rousey versus Becky Lynch. I do believe that match will happen. I just cannot sit here and say when. Noob says, with some of the wrestlers who are free agents during the draft, which brand will they be heading to? There's a big amount of names there. It's really hard to speculate and specify individuals. I think Bayley will be going to Raw to face up against Becky Lynch at WrestleMania. That's what I think will happen with Bayley. But of course, it may be that she doesn't heal as quickly as I personally believe. This is speculation on my part, but I do believe we could be seeing that Bayley goes to Raw. If not for WrestleMania, then immediately after WrestleMania, with Becky Lynch retaining until then. Outside of that, it's a very difficult one because the names mentioned are names like Dakota Kai. People who aren't really doing much on NXT right now and could really do with that call-up. Literally, as I'm saying it, there's Michael asking the question. So it's difficult at this point. I'm trying to get names and I'm trying to get brands. There is a plan for Dakota Kai. There'll be more on that on spoiler warning, but right now all I will say is that there is a plan for Dakota Kai. Kervin says, I wish AEW would make another championship like the Trios Tag Team Championship because AEW has too many group factions. I don't believe they have too many factions at all. I believe we are predisposed and preconditioned to believe that there is such a thing as too many factions because as WWE viewers, we're used to there being no real factions. When you look at, for example, New Japan, everyone's in a faction. Everyone's in a faction. Trios titles makes perfect sense to me, and I definitely see them coming in the future. I don't know if they'll be now, and I don't know who the first champions will be, but I definitely think Trios championships are just a perfect and obvious choice. Specifically, after Kenny Omega loses the AEW championship, Kenny and the Young Bucks would be perfect Trios champions. Michael says, hi Tom, why wasn't Dakota drafted? I'm really not sure. Genuinely not sure. I've been trying to find that information for a while. As I say, there is a plan for Dakota Kai. They just decided not to call her up as of yet. They are pinning a lot of hopes on her, and there is a lot of faith behind her and a lot of people behind Dakota Kai. But as of yet, no call up. There will be a number of people who aren't called up but still start making appearances shortly. It wouldn't be too much of a surprise to me that even after the draft, Dakota Kai is in the Queen's Crown tournament or something of that design. That's just a way to use people that haven't necessarily been mentioned as of yet. AK says, what's your take on NXT 2.0? I've stopped watching it now as it's just not the product I loved and waited to watch weekly. NXT is nothing like it used to be, and it's is it a shame? It's different. It's different, certainly. It is built around different people, and with that come challenges. The WWE, particularly Vince McMahon, is a lot more involved now. He wants to create new stars, but those new stars once created will not be staying in NXT. 2.0 is still at the moment considered an experiment. There is still the option to go back to the previous way, but they are relatively committed. They wanted to make it look like a WWE brand instead of like a different brand. And this is not necessarily a positive when you consider that NXT was supposed to be the alternative to WWE. It was supposed to present something different, and it just at the moment has not happened. Now, there's been a lot of people who've enjoyed NXT 2.0, but the talking points have not been active wrestlers. They haven't. We could be seeing Volta, we could be seeing a championship reign feud for LA Knight. Nearly said Eli Drake there. We could be seeing a lot of things, just a lot of things. NXT right now is incredibly unpredictable. If they were able to harness that, a lot more people would be watching. There is a child screaming outside and I have no idea why. Kervin says, I can see Ronda Rousey being a part-timer at the WWE. I can see that as well. I think she'll probably go limited date. Her initial contract was supposed to be limited date. However, it didn't play out that way because ultimately she wanted to only work the year. Max, welcome, says, who do you think is going to win the 2022 Royal Rumble? Hard to say at this point. That said, it was at this point last year that I said Bianca Belair is going to win the Royal Rumble and challenge Sasha Banks. Hope you guys are paying attention to that one because that one did not make headlines, but it's still one of my prouder moments. There's a number of potential options. I think Drew McIntyre is a shoo-in for a second win to take on Roman, but it really depends. If Big E is still the WWE... Jesus Christ. If Big E is still the WWE champion come WrestleMania, that is a very different possibility to if, for example, Seth Rollins is the champion come WrestleMania. So very hard to say, but I would be keeping my eye on a Finn Balor, and I'd be keeping my eye on a Damian Priest. Steve says, agree with you on Xavier. What would happen with Nakamura and his gimmick should he not win King of the Ring? As long as he keeps Boogs and Pat, I'd be fine with any changes. The King Nakamura concept is, for me, a very small part of the overall Nakamura. Seriously, what is happening with this child out here? She's not hurt, she's just screaming for some reason. Trying to show off, I don't know. Anyway, we'll try and focus. The crown and the kingship is not an integral part of Shinsuke Nakamura. I don't see him keeping it after the tournament. In fact, I don't necessarily see him keeping it for the tournament. Logically, it makes perfect sense to me that we're just going to move on from the King Nakamura aspect. I would not be upset or offended by that because I think Nakamura is a strong enough character as is. And I think his work with Boogs and with the crown have genuinely made him a lot more compelling than he was beforehand. So get him against Roman. Do it now. It's been a very good year for Nakamura. Dominic Perez, not asking about the music, says, hi Tom, I love the show, thank you. Do you know what's the situation on Shayna Baszler? I hope she doesn't have to put over Doudrop. The plan apparently for Shayna Baszler is a big push. She may be putting over Doudrop on her way out of Raw. I don't think that's necessarily a huge downside, but she's going to be running through a lot of opponents. That's what I'm hearing and that's what I'm reporting. Shayna Baszler is expected to run through quite a lot of opponents and a lot of different people, really cause havoc, really do some damage. Once she gets to SmackDown, likely to work with Natalya for a little while, just pick up wins, just make her look absolutely dominant on her way to the top. Now this is either a Queen's Crown win, which I can see happening, or championship. Or in fact, both. If I was WWE, I would be going all in on Baszler until WrestleMania at least. I would have her leaving Mania as the champion and the Queen of Queen's Court, as it were. And then going forwards, I would then look at someone else to come and take that championship from her. That's what I would be doing with Shayna Baszler. When it comes to Doudrop, I think this is just a feud to sort of tide them over on their way out. I don't know who's going to come out the winner here. Doudrop has so far been very heavily protected, but a loss for Doudrop could force her back into Eva Marie's clutches. So there could be storyline purposes for this. I'd be pushing Baszler over Doudrop, despite the fact that I'm a Doudrop fan, have met her, have interviewed her, genuinely think she's awesome. Noob says, Bayley to Raw and Asuka to SmackDown, heavily rumoured these past few months before both of them were injured. Yeah, and a large part of those rumours was, of course, myself. I saw that coming. That's what I believed would happen when we finally got the shake-up. But the shake-up was supposed to be after WrestleMania. It's pushed back and back and back. We eventually get to the draft now because there are fans back and Becky Lynch was available. They wanted her as a key part of it to balance out Fox and USA Network. So it was one of those where it took a while to get going, but I still believe that Bayley to Raw and Asuka to SmackDown are very logical choices, both to appear either just before or just after WrestleMania. Asuka versus Baszler would be a good feud. That's all I'm saying. Steve says, what would be your go-to snack of choice when watching WWE? Now, I don't snack as much nowadays when watching WWE because I don't eat on stream. But I do have a selection of options. I have Skittles here. I have whole Suvas. I have a lot of crisps. I'm a crisp guy. I always seem to be a crisp guy. But yes, I'm a snacker. My snack of choice, if I could only have one, probably be Galaxy Cookie Crumble. What can I say? I have a very big sweet tooth. If you haven't yet clicked that like button, that little thumbs up just underneath the screen, please do consider doing so. It's a big help to me and a big help to the growth of the channel. If you can do that, it almost immediately guarantees an increase in viewership for every single like that comes through. If you can press that thumbs up, I would be tremendously grateful. It makes a very big difference. Anand says, update on Johnny Gargano's contract. There is no update. They have not even sat him down and started talking about it just yet. There has just been some overtures, basically Triple H, or actually not Triple H, with Shawn Michaels, approaching him and saying, so do you want a new contract or not? Should we come in with an offer to try and gauge if he was interested? Gargano, I believe, will likely stay with the WWE, particularly with a child on the way. I think he'll just look for the security. But they will be pitching a number of offers to him, largely built around pushes. He'll be offered a lot of pushes, not necessarily a lot of money. And that might not be enough for him. AK says AJ, Seth and Balor on one brand. Just have the matches. Raw would be good. I do feel they will be involved in feuds going forwards. Of course, Big E's the champion right now. I think you've basically detailed right there the rest of the top level division. That's definitely what I see. You've also got Bobby Lashley, who can slide in and out of that championship picture, although I would like to see Bobby Lashley going back to Damian Priest, reclaiming the US Championship, thus allowing Damian Priest to join that group that you've mentioned and compete for the top gold. I'd just be very excited by that. The Botch Guy, welcome, says no plan for Toni Storm on SmackDown. Ultimately, I'm going to be honest, no. No plan right now for Toni Storm on SmackDown. A number of people, particularly those who were drafted late or were not drafted on TV at all, there is no plan. It is just a situation whereby someone on Raw or SmackDown, someone on Creative said, yeah, give me them, let's see what we can do with them, if anything. This happens with The Miz and Kevin Owens a lot and is the main reason why they swap brands so often. There will be more information on that in spoiler warning later on tonight, twitch.tv/Tom Colohue. Max says, did you know that Sasha is the only horsewoman who has not won at WrestleMania? Do you know why? That's possibly a reason why people think WWE or Vince hates her. Sasha Banks, for anyone who doesn't know, is Vince McMahon's favourite person in the world, and yes, that is higher in his personal ranking than Shane or Stephanie. Particularly Shane, he barely remembers that Shane exists most of the time. When it comes to Sasha Banks, a large part of why she's never won at WrestleMania is because Sasha Banks is happy to put other people over. Now, admittedly, this puts her in a position whereby she'll say, okay, I'm very happy to put the Iconics over, they're developing. I'm very happy to put Bayley over, she is my best friend. I'm very happy to put Charlotte over, we've just come onto the main roster, and we know she's the one that you have a lot of hopes for. Sasha Banks is a giver. Now, I'm not sat here saying the other horsewomen are takers, as it were, but I do feel that they've been in situations whereby a win at WrestleMania is more beneficial to their career, whereby Sasha Banks wants to put over other people. While she wouldn't have won at WrestleMania against Bianca Belair, she was going to win at SummerSlam. Pardon me. So she wasn't going to win at WrestleMania. She was going to reclaim her title at SummerSlam, leaving Bianca Belair to move on to Raw and then feud with Becky Lynch going forwards, at least briefly. But as an end result of her being unavailable, that of course did not happen. So lots of change. Sasha Banks unfortunately has been a victim of a lot of change in the WWE, and it's left her with not a solid foundation to stand upon when it comes to standing there and saying, I want this, I want that a lot of the top names can do to a Vince McMahon. Becky Lynch, for example, could walk into Vince McMahon's office and say, I want another championship reign. She'll probably get it. She will probably get it. Though once again, not sure that's actually what happens. I have just realised I still have my information up from Twitch. I do apologise. Let me just get rid of these. And they are for later, not for now. I will eventually be making some changes to the visual spectacle here. Tomorrow, I buy myself a new streaming PC. I'm very excited for it. With the new streaming PC, I'll be getting some new graphics, some new interface. I'll be trying to make the stream look better. Monday, things may look a little different, or I may keep it till the end of the month. Who can tell? Thank you, Steve. Appreciate that. Yeah, I always feel a bit awkward on stream. Now, admittedly, I'm getting a lot more confident and relaxed than I have been in the past. Basically, I've stopped giving so much of a fuck. But it's one of those where I still feel a bit awkward eating on stream. I feel awkward drinking on stream because I get gassy and I don't know why. But it is what it is, and you just have to learn to accept it, essentially. Michael says, why do they call people up from the main roster without any plans? Why not just let them establish themselves in NXT? Ah, okay. You may not like the answer here. I want to use the example of Tai Dillinger. When he was called up, he was of course Tai Dillinger in the WWE. When he was called up, there was a very specific reason. NXT didn't want him anymore. That's the reason. NXT had given him as much as they could. They wanted him essentially out of the way so that they could develop other people. So he was moved to the main roster, and there was no plan for him. Much like a move from Raw to SmackDown, this was a move from NXT to, I believe, SmackDown at the time, where he was basically told, we don't have a plan right now, we're going to try and work something out. Just do what you can. You might have to do a couple of jobs, but it'll all work out long term. It didn't. AK says, any idea when Gable Stevenson will start wrestling in WWE? Soon. Yeah, I reached out after this, and yeah, the best thing I can say is soon. Keep a weather eye on that one, because let's just say that the hopes are high that the WWE have found their next Brock Lesnar. In more ways than one. Hello, the user. How you doing, mate? Anand says, will Randy Orton be cleared before Crown Jewel? His injury has not been disclosed yet, and WWE have advertised for the Raw Tag Team Championship for Crown Jewel. And Randy Orton is not injured. Randy Orton appeared on Raw. He didn't wrestle a full match, but he did engage in physical activity. Randy Orton is not injured. The report stating that he was injured doesn't seem like it was accurate, because he was there and actually getting involved physically with Omos. It's a tricky one, isn't it? You're never sure who to listen to in the wide ranges of wrestling, because ultimately a hell of a lot of wrestling reporting is wrong lately. The user says, did you see AW Twitter posted an article about Vince McMahon? I did not. I'm guessing it's not that favourable. AK says, if I'm Chad Gable, I think I'm losing my name yet again due to another Gable. It's not impossible that happens. I don't like the idea, and I don't think anyone likes the idea, but it's not impossible, and it's a very fair thing to mention there. If I'm Chad Gable, I would have left a while ago. You're not going to get pushed. You're just not. Chad Gable could be in there wrestling with Finn Balor, Seth Rollins, Big E, wrestling at the very top level. He's got that level of talent. What I think we're going to get... Sorry, not what I think we're going to get. If I may fantasy book for a moment, I would like to see a Gable off. Chad Gable, Gable Stevenson, both very talented wrestlers, both award-winning as it were. Stick them in a ring. Tell them the winner gets to keep the name Gable. Make it a best of 5. You know that's going to be fun. Like, you know that's going to be fun. Give me a Gable off. That's all I want. The Butch Guy says, can you see SmackDown pushing Ricochet? Honestly, I can. I think SmackDown has a much smaller roster, and they need a variety of people at a variety of levels. So with that smaller roster, I can see Ricochet working with, for example, Baron Corbin now that Kevin Owens has moved. I can definitely see that. I can see Ricochet working with Shinsuke Nakamura, at least briefly. I can see him working with Cesaro. There's not that many people on SmackDown. And because of this, I think there's a lot more opportunities on SmackDown. Anand says, congratulations for the new PC. Thank you very much. Looking forward for much more exciting changes. Yeah, slowly but surely we are marching towards that point at which I can say I'm doing this full time. Slowly but surely. If you haven't yet clicked subscribe, please do so. If you haven't yet clicked the notification bell, please do so. I implore you to check out every video that we post here on YouTube, because the more views, the more watch hours, all of this, the faster we grow, the faster I can go full time, and then you're going to get a whole load of extra content, new shows, shows involving not just myself, a variety of shows covering a variety of topics with a variety of people. Once I'm monetized, I want to be involved with a whole lot more people who will essentially be able to earn money here and work with me. Not necessarily for me, but with me, as it were. So if you guys are interested in more content from the Tom Colohue channels, watch as much as you can. Every minute of watch time makes a huge difference. And literally, the best way to support me is to stick on one of these live videos and just let it run. Just let it run. Noob says, did you know that Asuka didn't win a WrestleMania match because fans want to see a Japanese wrestler to win a WrestleMania? I don't believe that sentence quite gels together, Noob, because you're suggesting that the reason Asuka didn't win is because Japanese fans want to see her win, which I don't really believe to be the case. The reason Asuka didn't win at WrestleMania is because ultimately they don't see her on the main roster as a top-level star because they don't believe that she can cut an engaging enough promo to really be that top-level star. The reason she got the Raw Women's Championship last year was because Becky Lynch said so. But the booking during that championship reign showed what the WWE really felt. I'd keep an eye on what people do, not what people say. The Botch guy says, your thoughts about Corey Graves' shoot comments to Dana Brooke on Raw, massively uncalled for. Massively uncalled for. But are we 100% certain that they were shoot comments? Because I'm sitting here and I'm not. I think they may have been scripted, either to get the attention of Dana Brooke, or because that's going to be at least an attempt at a Dana Brooke storyline going forwards. If her storyline going forwards is essentially, why am I here? And then feeling a bit depressed as she goes into matches and then some sort of resurgence, I can get behind that. I could get behind that, but it depends. The WWE ultimately never had that high hopes when it comes to Dana Brooke. She's just sort of there right now, and it's a shame. Anan says, can we expect Gable Steveson to debut in the King of the Ring tournament and probably win? This will give some eyeballs to Raw and might help in getting ratings. It's not outside the realms as a possibility that he's involved in the tournament. I haven't been told that he's going to be directly involved. However, I was behind the ball on this one. I don't doubt that at all. Fightful definitely got this news first and broke it at a really ideal time to do so. I have been told he'll be debuting soon. With the fact that we haven't had a bracket released, it could be that they are deciding whether or not he's going to be in that. So keep an eye out for it. AK Ray says, I wouldn't mind a Johnny Off. Gargano versus Morrison. Well, Johnny Off is a horrible sounding phrase, especially if you're American. Oh, a Johnny Off. But that would be a great way to introduce Gargano. You're going to get a great feud out of John Morrison. And having Gargano come in and immediately pick up that win could make a big difference long term. Max says, do you think Drew's going to beat Roman Reigns? By watching the bump, it looks like it is the direction. I do believe that's going to be the case. I believe they will save the Drew McIntyre versus Roman match until SummerSlam next year, which is believed to be happening in the UK. However, as the UK commentary is in its infancy, they haven't worked out exactly what they're going to do yet. I believe we're going to see Drew versus Roman at WrestleMania if that doesn't pan out. So they're leaving their options open. What I will advise, if you want this news first, it's actually right here on YouTube. I want to say maybe a week ago, you can get the answer to that one. So I do implore you to watch as many videos as possible. Hello, Tanner. Welcome with the massive, loud Tom Colohue. Oh, love it, mate. Love it. AK says, Asuka cuts good promos in Japanese. Didn't understand anything, but it just seems good and is so much more energetic. Yes, but you don't have anything to play off as a wrestler standing opposite her. That's the difficulty you have in that environment. The Botch guy says, can you see Finn Balor continuing to use the demon character? Yep. We're going to see a lot more of the demon going forwards. And I say that as a guy who said when he first moved to NXT, we're not going to see the demon in NXT. And as a guy who said when he first moved back to the main roster, we're going to see the Demon King on the main roster and see it soon. I have the inside track on this one, guys. We're going to see a lot more of the demon. And it's not a guaranteed winner anymore. Anan says, if WWE were not confident on Asuka, why did they build her winning streak so strong? It looked like a waste of time considering how she was booked as Raw Women's Champion. You see, here's the issue. NXT booked Asuka as a top-level champion. At no point was she booked in that way in the main roster. At no point. Much like now, the WWE didn't believe that they got an interesting enough character in Asuka to carry a feud. Hence why they've made such dramatic changes. The Asuka we see now is nothing close to what she was in NXT. But it's believed that the character she portrayed in NXT, basically her character was, I am the champion, was not enough for the main roster to get people invested. Hence why she has not been booked anywhere near as close. The Botch guy says, if Sasha Banks became the SmackDown Women's Champion again, what's going to happen to Charlotte's title? Well, this is why Sasha Banks is not going to become SmackDown Women's Champion again, at least not yet. If that were to happen, both women would have to vacate their championships, basically. Well, at least Charlotte Flair would have to vacate her championship and then start competing against Sasha. That's not necessarily fair. Also, it essentially means that Charlotte Flair might get an easy track to another championship win, and I don't think any of us are particularly behind that happening again and 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 again. I don't think any of us particularly want to see that. That said, number of different ways this could play out. I still remain confident. Spoiler warning: Becky Lynch retains the SmackDown Women's Championship, hands the title over to Charlotte in exchange for the Raw Women's Championship on SmackDown immediately after. I do believe it's very possible that there's a beatdown by one of them at that point, and maybe Becky leaves with both championships, but then I feel confident then that she would be the one losing at Survivor Series, because there will be a winner and a loser between Becky and Charlotte at Survivor Series. With this in mind, it's very possible, of course, that Bianca Belair wins and then beats Charlotte at Survivor Series. Lots of different ways this could play out. Lots of different ways. AK says, should Hangman Page win at Full Gear, or should they stretch it out more? I would strike while the iron is hot. Now that he's just come back and he had an amazing reception, give him the match, give him the championship. Don't mess around. That's what I would do personally. Indeed, Michael, again and again and again. Steve says, can you see Bianca and Sasha finishing their feud at Survivor Series, both as captains, or the 5 versus 5 Raw versus SmackDown match? I can see them both involved in that match, but not necessarily finishing the feud, as it were. There's going to be a third match between Bianca Belair and Sasha Banks, just not yet. The idea was WrestleMania, Bianca Belair wins. SummerSlam, Sasha Banks gets her win back, and then we wait. Inconclusive until eventually, 2-3 years down the line, they're ready to sort of start phasing Sasha Banks out. At least out of championship picture. At which point Bianca Belair would win the feud conclusively, winning 2-1 for the actual best of 3. That was the plan that they were looking at, and that was what they were considering doing at the time. Anan says, are there any more draft rounds left? Can we see some more exchanges between Raw and SmackDown, or NXT call-ups to the main roster? There are no more planned draft rounds? Drown draft. That's a phrase. There are no more planned draft rounds between Raw and SmackDown. However, when it comes to NXT, the door is still open. We may see a number of more people moving from NXT to Raw or SmackDown. We've already had a lot. There have been a lot of call-ups, but there's a number of people that NXT maybe don't have that much for at the moment who are considered to be the finished article. I'm looking at Gargano if he signs a new contract. I'm looking at Ciampa if he can be convinced. Ultimately, Vince McMahon was not happy when a number of people in NXT said, we just want to stay in NXT. We don't want to go to the main roster. Vince McMahon was just not happy to hear that. Just not happy to hear that. The Botch guy says, if Triple H books the women's division on the main roster 2015 to 2021, I don't see Charlotte winning too many championships. Disagree. I think as much as anything, Charlotte's Triple H's favourite as well. Absolutely. And when you consider people who've won too many championships in a short space of time, you're talking about Triple H. I do think as much as anything, Triple H would be the one pushing Charlotte to championships because he wants Charlotte to overtake Ric Flair's record as well. It's going to happen. The person who overtakes Ric Flair's record is going to be Charlotte Flair. AK Race says, who's the most handsome wrestler in WWE and most fearsome looking? You're asking me to judge people by their looks, and honestly, if I'm judging wrestlers by their physical appearance, purely talking about what I am personally most attracted to, I would be saying Finn Balor on the basis of abs. That said, has anyone seen Kota Ibushi? Because if you haven't, my God. Most fearsome looking, I want to give that to Bobby. Bobby Lashley, on his day, looks like an absolute force of nature. And on those days, I'm just very, very, very happy to see Bobby Lashley being an absolute force of nature. Why wouldn't you be? The guy's got it all. He's legitimately just got it all. For anyone who has not yet clicked like on the live stream, please do consider doing so. That little thumbs up can make a major difference. You can also subscribe to get daily wrestling videos or live streams, or on Sundays a wrestling video and a live stream. And of course, if you've been enjoying these shows, please do let me know. We will be streaming tonight on Twitch, so that's twitch.tv/Tom Colohue, or my pinned tweet. If you click on that, you can go straight across, click follow, and that will mean that you have the ability to get a notification in 3 hours when we go live on Twitch with spoiler warning. There is exclusive news on spoiler warning you cannot find anywhere else because no one else has the information. So by all means, check that out. In the meantime, we are going to wrap up. I'll be live on YouTube once again, Sunday, 10 p.m. That is UK time. That is 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time in the US. In addition, we'll be back for Raw on Monday at the same time, 6 p.m. UK time, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Please subscribe if you haven't. Click that notification bell. Click that like button. They make a huge difference to me, and they really help support the growth of the channel. The faster we grow, the more shows you get, the more content you get, and the more you're going to see of this dumb face right here. Anand says, any update on Scarlett Bordeaux? Recently, Karrion Kross stated they are waiting for something to complete. Will there be some kind of character change of Karrion Kross, or Scarlett will make an in-ring debut? And once again, that is a piece of information that's available right here on the YouTube. I'm going to find the exact video about that, if you'll bear with me. I'm going to find the exact video and link it for you so that you can check it out. Hello, Wrestle Death with an exclamation mark. That's commitment. Welcome to the show, Wrestle Death. All right, let me just find this this video for you. So, Tom Colohue, Jeff Hardy, Karrion Kross, because this is a video which contains piece of information, 2 months old. This video contains information that was confirmed confirmed 2 days after it was reported on Fightful Select behind the paywall, and 4 days afterwards by Andrew Zarian of of the Wrestling Observer podcast, not behind a paywall. So I'm just going to drop this into the chat for anyone who's interested in finding out what the deal is and the plans are for Karrion Kross. Now, it was confirmed behind the paywall of Fightful Select, and it was confirmed by Andrew Zarian, but they confirmed pieces of it. Watch that video to get the whole picture, and click like on the video as well. It makes a big difference. In the meantime, I've been Tom Colohue. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you all very soon, either on Twitch tonight for our Smackdown watch party and spoiler warning, or here on YouTube on Sunday night. Take care, and I will see you all very soon.